Hello guys, and welcome once again to BNU1501 class. Today we are looking at measurements. Under measurements, we need to know that there are only basic four shapes that we need to look at: a rectangle, a square, a triangle, and a circle. Those are the basic shapes that we have. So we have a circle, a rectangle, a triangle, and a square. Right? So from these, they will ask us to calculate, firstly, perimeter. Perimeter. And we know that perimeter is a distance right round a given shape. So we just need the distance right around a given shape. So having said that, we now need to know that for perimeter of a circle is 2 pi r. For a half a circle is pi r. Then perimeter for a triangle is A plus B plus C, which are the sides of a triangle. Remember, a triangle has got 3 sides. Then we need perimeter of a square is equals to 4 times the length. And for a rectangle is equals to 2 times length plus width. So those are the formulas to calculate the perimeter of the basic shapes. I included the half a circle because it is very, very essential and very important in your calculations, right? Then we also need to know the formulas to calculate area of each shape. So area of a circle is pi r squared, right? So of a half a circle, it will be pi r squared over 2. Then we need for a triangle, area for a triangle is half base times height. Area of a square is length squared. Because remember, a square has got 4 equal sides. So if it has got 4 equal sides, to calculate area, we just say length times length or length squared. Then for rectangle, area of a rectangle is length times width. We need to know that. Then lastly, we need to calculate volume under measurements. So under volume, on volume, we now need to deal with basically 3 different shapes that are converted from being square to a cube. So under volume, we have a cube, which the formula for a cube is length to the power 3. A cube is a square which is now in cube form. Then we have a prism, which is a rectangle. A rectangle which becomes a prism when it comes to volume. It's length times width times height. Then lastly, we have a cylinder. A cylinder which was derived from a circle. So a cylinder, volume of a cylinder is pi r squared times height. So basically, these are the formulas that we need to remember when you're dealing with measurements. So when you're dealing with measurements, what you need to remember is what is the formula for each shape. Then they are not going to give you these shapes as simple as it might sound. However, they will combine 2 or 3 different shapes into one figure, right, or one sketch drawing. So you need to know or differentiate which one is a circle, which one is a square, which one is a triangle if it's given, which one is a rectangle, which one is a semicircle. So you need to differentiate that. Having said that, we need now to look at few examples and apply the formulas that we are dealing with into practice. So we're going to need to look for 1 or 2 examples and calculate measurements, and then we see if we are moving in the correct direction. So I've chosen some few questions that we need to look at, and there are so many questions that you can practice from to see if whether you are able to answer those questions. But I will explain to you each step that you need to take to be able to answer those questions. Then if you need any further questions or explanation, I'll always be there to help. Okay, here we are given a figure, and question number 1, they asked us to calculate the perimeter of the figure in meters and round off your answer to 2 decimal digits. So the answer must be in meters, and we need to round it off to 2 decimal digits. Okay, so perimeter is just a distance right around a given shape. So what we are looking for is the distance right around a given shape. So here we have this side and this side, which is 10 centimeters each. So we're going to say 10 plus 10. Then we also have this side and this side, which is also 10 plus 10. Now we are only left with 2 sides, this side here and this side here. So you can see that we have 2 half circles, 1 and 2. But we need the outward distance. So in other words, if you combine 2 halves or 2 semicircles, they become 1 full circle. So in other words, we now need to calculate the perimeter of a full circle, which is a combination of these 2 halves. So hence we come here and say, what is the formula to calculate the perimeter of a circle, which is also known as the circumference? It's what? 2 pi r, right? So r is the radius. R is the radius. And with the radius, we have a diameter. A diameter is a line that cuts the whole circle into 2. Hence, radius is half of the diameter. So on our question here, we can note that we have a diameter which is 10 centimeters long. So our diameter is 10 centimeters long. That means our radius is half of 10 centimeters, which is 5. So here we're going to say 2 times pi times 5, right? Now what you need to remember is the pi value is always given on the formula. You don't need to look for the actual value for pi. So it's always given on the formula. So then this will give you 31,42, which you are going to add here, plus 31.42. This then becomes what? 71.42 centimeters. However, our answer, they require it in what? In meters. And remember earlier on we said there, for every 1 meter, there is 100 centimeters. So here we are going to say 71.42 divided by 100 to know how many meters we have. To which we will get what? 0, 7, 1 meters. Becomes 0,71 meters. So what you need to establish is the radius is half of a diameter, and the diameter is a line that cuts the whole circle into half or into 2. You need to remember that, which is very, very important information, because whenever you're going to deal with measurements, you need to be able to determine the radius, which is half of the diameter. Okay, that was the first example that we do. So you must remember how to determine the radius and what is a diameter. Okay, now moving forward, on question 2, they said calculate the area of the shaded part of the figure. Calculate the area of the shaded part, right, of the figure. Now, when you're calculating area, now you come back to the figure and look at how many shapes do you have if you want to calculate area. Because for perimeter, just calculating the distance right on a given shape. But now you need to know how many shapes you have that are shaded and that are not shaded. So you can see now from here that we have a triangle, which is the first one. Secondly, we have 2 half circles. 2 half circles, which makes a full circle. Then we have a rectangle. So in other words, we have what? 3 shapes. We have 3 shapes. 1, and a circle, and a rectangle. So what we do now to calculate the area of the shaded part, because we are only concentrating on the shaded part, we then come here and say 1, area of a rectangle is equals to length times width. Hence, the length is from this side to this side, which is 8 plus 6, which is 8 plus 8, which is 16. So 16 times width is 10. From here to here is 10. Hence, it gives us 160 square centimeters. Then secondly, we calculate area of a circle. Area of a circle is equals to, remember, we mentioned that earlier, that is pi r squared. Now, we now know how to get the r, the radius. So, our pi, the value of pi is always given on your calculator, times the radius. We already have the radius, which is half of the diameter. And our diameter here is what? It's 10. So half of 10 is 5 squared, which will give you 78.54. Then thirdly, you calculate area of a triangle, which is half base times height. So area of a triangle is half base times height. So half of the base. Our base is always the side that is sitting of a triangle, right? However, we're not using this triangle, but that triangle. So here, we are looking for the base, and the base is 16. So our base is 16, and our height is 6. So we are going to say half of 16 times 8, which will give us 48, which will give us 48 square centimeters. Therefore, the area of the shaded part is going to be the combination of 160 plus 78.54 plus 48, which will give us 286.54 square centimeters. So what's more important when you're dealing with measurements is for you to be able to identify the number of shapes that you already know that are given on the figure, and also to take note of which part is shaded. Because here we can see that the rectangle is shaded, and the circle is shaded, including the triangle. Right? So basically that's what we do. In some instances, if one of the shape is inside another shape, you calculate both shapes' area and you subtract from each other. Then you will get the area of the shaded part. But basically, that's what we need to remember. Okay. So question number 2. We got our answer, which is 286.54. Now going to question number 3. On question number 3, they said a cylindrical jug that carries 1.5 liters of water when it is filled to the brim has a base surface of the diameter with the diameter of 12 centimeters. That's the diameter that they are talking about, right? How long is the jug? So they are saying how long is the jug from here to there. This is the distance we're looking for. Okay, for us to calculate how long is the jug, we need to know first how did they arrive at knowing that its volume is 1.5 liters. Okay, when you're dealing with volume, this is the fundamental thing you need to remember, that for every 1,000 cubic centimeters, it's equivalent to 1 liter. For every 1,000 liters is equivalent to 1 cubic meters. This measurement helps you to determine the number of liters or the cubic centimeter or meters that are given. So here they are saying that we have 1.5 liters of water, which means, and the answers that we are looking for is in centimeters. So what we need to do is to convert first this water into cubic centimeters. How do we do that? If we know that for every 1 liter is equivalent to 1,000 liters, so we can safely say for 1.5 liters times 1,000 liters, it will give us 1,500 square cubic centimeters, which is the volume that this cup carries to full. So then, now we know that the formula of a cylinder, volume of a cylinder, is equals to pi r squared times the height, of which this volume, we got it to be 1,500. And pi is always given. The radius, we said the radius is half of the diameter, and they said the diameter is 12 centimeters. So half of 12 is what? 6 squared. Then times height, which we do not have at the moment. Then we move on to say 1,500 is equals to pi times 6 squared, pi times 6 squared. What do we get? We'll get 113.1 times h, right? So having done this, we remember our main objective is to know how much is the height, which is the h. So we divide both sides by 113.1, divide by 113.1. This will cancel with that. So our height will be 13.26 centimeters. Our height will be 13.26 centimeters. So the only important thing here was to convert the answer already, because they said the container can carry 1.5 liters. So we needed to know how much is 1.5 liters into cubic centimeters, so that we can be able to work our way back. Okay. So that's part of volume. So volume, remember we said it can come as a prism, a cube, or a cylinder. Whichever one they bring, you just need to know what formula to use where. Okay. The number 4, another example that we need to look at. Another example we need to look at when it comes to measurements is question number 4. On question number 4, they told us that calculate the volume of the rectangular prism below, and your answer must be in liters. Now they want us to calculate the volume, and our answer must be in liters. Okay, so we look at the measurements, and we can see that here it's in centimeters, here it's in centimeters, but here it's in meters. So what we need to do is to convert this into centimeters. So we know that for every 100 centimeters is equals to 1 meter. So if we have 0.14 meters to centimeters, we multiply by 100. So we multiply by 100. So if you say 0.14 times 100, we'll get how much? 14 centimeters. Get 14 centimeters. Hence, now we know that here is 14 centimeters. Applying our formula, we said volume of a rectangle is what? Length times width times the height. So the length is 17 5 times the width is 14 and the height is 4,4. Then our answer will be, if we multiply all of the above, we'll get 1078 cubic centimeters, which then we divide by 1,000. Remember why? Because we agreed that for every 1,000 cubic centimeters is equivalent to 1 liter. So now we need our answer to be in liters. Hence, it's 1.078 liters. That will be our final answer. So our final answer will be 1.078 liters of water that can fill the prism. So the most important thing for you is to remember the formulas and the most important measurement that I've indicated to you. Then you must be able to interpret the shape so that you'll be able to answer your questions clearly without having to struggle. Okay, now if you look at question number 5, it's also another question that they can ask you in the exam. It doesn't have a shape, but they ask you under measurements. So we need to look at it and see if we are able to answer it and how should we answer it. They said you plan to tile your veranda, which measures 9 meters by 7 meters. So that automatically becomes a rectangle. And we know that our veranda is always a rectangle in most cases. The tiles that you are going to use measures 25 centimeters by 25 centimeters each. No breakages are foreseen. That means you're not going to break any tile during the process. How many tiles will you need? Okay, for this, you need step 1. For step 1, you need to calculate the area of a rectangle, which is for the veranda, right? So that area will be length times width, which is 9 times 7. That means our area will be 63 square meters. Remember, it's in meters, square meters. Then step 2. On step 2, you need to determine the area of each tile in meters. Because they said the tile measures 25 centimeters by 25 centimeters. So 25 centimeters times 25 centimeters. However, this is in centimeters. We need to convert them into meters. And we remember we said there are 100 centimeters into 1 meter. So here we are having centimeters. We divide by 100. We divide by 100 so that it will be in meters. So if you say 25 over 100 times 25 over 100, the answer that we will get is 0,0625 square meters. So each tile that you are going to use covers 0,0625 square meters of space. Therefore, we need to know how many tiles we're going to need to use to cover an area of 63 square meters. We divide by 0,0625, which is equal to 1008 tiles. So we're gonna need to use 1008 tiles to cover a 63 square meter area when we're using a tile that covers 25 by 25 centimeters, which is 0.0625 square meters in area. So basically that's what we need to do, and this is mostly the applicable way of the measurements that we have been studying, to apply them, like where do they fit in. So that's all that we need to talk about. When it comes to measurements. So you must remember that whenever you're approaching any question about measurements, the first thing that you need to establish is what are the number of shapes that you have in the question that you remember. Secondly, you need to know the formulas to calculate either its perimeter, it's an area, it's a volume for each shape. Then you combine those shapes depending on the diagram that is given to you. So you need to work through a lot of questions from the previous question papers to see if you understand the concept. From there, we'll meet again on our next session.